talking your fairy stories.
I allowed him to talk on, and then I allowed him to give what he was doing. I should be allowed to
have
give
the same conversation every single day. You do the same thing every single day. We want this weight sorted out. That's why we want to talk about it.
Answers, you moron, and I should be allowed to do the same.
Stop calling me a moron. Why?
Stop saying I shouldn't be allowed to give the answer I wish to you.
I didn't say that. I said why he interrupted you.
Justifiably, because I use the word wait. I can say it whatever I bloody well like.
I could literally be saying anything to you now, couldn't I? And you wouldn't be listening to me. I might as well order a Chinese meal from you.
A stupid point.
It's not a stupid point. I pointed out why you were interrupted.
Yeah, but you try to justify his behaviour, and it's not
because no,
it's valid.
It's not
absolutely valid.
Go and look on the Wikipedia page for buoyancy.
I'm pretty sure Anthony's got all of the definitions of weight at his fingertips.
Right,
yeah,
and we're not talking about buoyancy.
We are talking about buoyancy.
We're talking about neutral buoyancy.
Yeah, yes, exactly. That's a special case of buoyancy, you moron.
It's not special.
It is a special case. It's a one particular case. This definition you've got on here is for morons who don't understand that. So this is not a definition of neutral buoyancy. This is a layman's definition for morons who don't like or can't understand the scientific definition.
Well, we can go to another one if you'd like.
Go to the scientific definition, and it'll tell you that it's when the forces of buoyancy and gravity cancel out. And that's a scientific definition, not some layman's bloody thing for morons. I mean, this is telling you the consequence of neutral buoyancy. In the equation, this is one condition. Another condition for neutral buoyancy is when little g is 0, i.e. you're in the vomit comet. You're not going to scientific definitions.
We're not in the vomit comet. We're not on the space station. We're not going up in rockets.
You don't have to go there to be able to use the results of having gone.
Answer me this.
Can you do it the same in a water rocket, for example? Like an easy-to-build one?
Water rocket?
Yeah, when you're going to be in a certain state, you are going to have like 5 seconds 0G or something like that. Those are pretty easy to build, so you don't need NASA, you don't need ESA, you just need a little bit of engineering skills, and everyone who has the time to do it can do it. You know, you have like 5 seconds 0G.
Right. I mean, I don't know if you can see my screen, Cindy. Yeah. This equation here is the equation for neutral buoyancy, that one there. Yeah. And you can see that if you make the densities the same, then that becomes 0. Or you can make little g 0, and you can do that by either being in the vomit cone or as you described, if you made some other rocket. If you can get g to be 0, hold on, actually, let me finish my sentence. Don't interrupt me, please. Nearly finished. And if you make little g, you put it in circumstances where little g is 0, you will also get neutral buoyancy. So this is the full equation. This is the proper, well-defined scientific definition of buoyancy. And for neutral buoyancy, it's equal to 0. This is a proper form, not some layman's half-baked, half-explanation. This is the full form.
Is it a scientific theory?
Yeah. Well, not everything's a theory. Not all scientific equations are theories, but it is an
scientific equations. What are you talking about? These equations aren't scientific at all. They're mathematical.
That's science. Maths is the language.
Oh, you're stuttering.
And you're a wanker.
Go on, get angry about this. Sorry. So this is sorry. Is the answer no? So this is not a scientific theory. How many times have you been punched in the face? Sorry, are we dealing with causes? Why are you talking over me, Rumpus?
I bet it's less times than you, Rumpus.
No, I've never been punched in the face. No one would try it on with me. Whereas I'm sure
this is not a science. So we are dealing with the causes of things. Falls into the category of science, but this isn't a scientific theory.
Well, normally theory is given to a very broad explanation of lots of things. So they need a big titles on them given to them by Einstein's theory of
scientific theories, not theories. Not theories. Rumpus, let's get some clarity. Not theory, scientific theory.
This is science. This is scientific. This is science. You're seeing behaviour.
So it is a scientific theory.
No, it's not called a theory, Nathan. It's a scientific
equation. So it's not a scientific theory.
Only specially significant equations are called theories.
No, equations aren't science, Rumpus. You
only
complete
things
fuckwit.
of great stature are called theories. If you don't know that, you're a
fuckwit. Sorry, you're talking about maths. This isn't science.
This is science.
No, it's maths.
Yeah, it represents science.
It represents science. No, fuckwit. It's maths. You fuckwit.
I know you're allergic to maths.
What a fuckwit. Have you been through the education system? Do you not know the fucking difference between maths and science? What a fuckwit.
Just because you don't understand
maths. What a fuckwit. You don't know the difference between maths and science, fuckwit.
All scientific papers of any worth in, say, physics, chemistry fields, geology, astronomy, whatever, all have equations.
So what? Science. Does that mean that this maths equation is science?
Yes.
So you're going to literally give us a formal logical fallacy to justify your maths as science. If equations, then science. Science, therefore equations. My God, you are the most stupid man here.
No, just because you're applying...
Just because you've got maths doesn't make it science, fuckwit.
No, that's correct.
Just because there's a maths equation does not make it science. You complete fuckwit. Yeah, correct. Yeah, fuckwit. Yeah, you don't know the difference between maths and science. That's because you're a fucking retard. You're a fucking retard, Rumpus. Fucking retard.
You're so
fucking retard. Don't know the difference between maths and science. It's not a scientific theory. It's not based on systematic experimentation and adherence to the scientific methods. It's just fucking maths.
So when did you leave?
When do I? It's just fucking maths, retard. You fucking retard.
Did you actually get any GCSEs or O levels? I doubt it.
Yeah, I did, you fucking retard. And I know the difference between maths and science, fuckwit. What a fuckwit. If equations, then science. Science, therefore equations. No, fuckwit.
This one is, though.
What a fuckwit. Science. There's no science backing gravity, fuckwit. It's just maths.
You're an odious little wanker.
Yeah, you get angry at me, you stupid idiot. You tell me that your maths equations are science again. Go on. You fucking idiot. You fucking idiot. You think maths is science because you're a fucking idiot. That's basically what this boils down to here. You think maths is science.
No, uses maths, Nathan. That's not what I said, you twit.
You think maths is science. You're a fuckwit. There's no other words to describe you.
Can we perhaps do a real hangout instead of a monologue and Rumpus in the background?
Are those values in your equation scientifically derived, Rumpus?
No, they're not.
Are all those values in your equation scientifically derived?
No.
Have they all come from the scientific method?
Correct.
No. All of those values in your equations have come from the scientific method, yes?
Correct.
No, of course not. That's why I asked him if it was a theory. If it was a scientific theory, it would be based on systematic experimentation with an adherence to the scientific method. That's what a scientific theory is. He made it very clear this isn't a scientific theory because it has absolutely sod all adherence to the scientific method. This is maths.
And it explains yeah,
whatever, dickhead. You don't know the difference between establishing cause and effect relationships with a systematic adherence to the scientific method and maths. That's because you're a complete idiot. Yeah? You're the stupidest person here. I often give you credit for being more smart than you actually are, and it's pretty clear to me here and now, Rumpus, that you're a complete fuckwit. You don't know the difference between maths and science. You admit that it's not a theory. You admit that it's not science, and then in the next breath tell people that it's science. You're just stupid. You think maths is science because you're a retard, and there's no other explanation for this.
Rumpus, you're a contradiction on amphetamines, mate. You really are.
So, Ben, what was your question? I didn't quite catch your question.
It wasn't. It was a statement. You're a fuckwit because you think maths is science.
No, Nathan, we know that's you.
That's just you stuttering. You're a fuckwit because you think maths is science.
You're an odious little ignorant wanker.
Yeah, that's just an insult. My insult comes with a demonstration based on your own words. This is not a scientific theory. It has no adherence to the scientific method. This is what you have disclaimed. Then in the next breath, you said it is science. That makes you a fuckwit. That's not an ad hominem. That's based on what you have said. You are a fuckwit based on what you have said. I'm not ad homing you. It's based on what you've said. Calling me an odious wanker is just an ad hom.
You would have a scientific experiment to validate that, G, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course.
Rumpus, you have a good point, but your character is getting in the way of actually making
the experiment that validates your G.
Event, you could go and do this yourself. If you
can you point me to the experiment that validates your G scientifically?
Well, I'm saying you can do it yourself.
I'm going to start the show on that note. Cheer me right up. Cheer me right up, he has. Oh, I like Rumpus now. He's cheered me right up. Fun stuff.
What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a PayPal link in the info box below the video. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Zinda, The Plain Truth, Spurs Gemo, Sleeping Warrior, Rumpus, Music, Jose, Warren and Arwin. Good to have you all.
Yo, yo.
Hello, hello, hello. What?
Good afternoon. So, are we going to have a hangout now, or is it going to be another hour-long monologue with rumpusing in the background?
I was asked to give an experiment for the measurement of G, and I'm just providing a link.
Just before we do anything, would you mind playing the link I've sent to you in Skype? It was in between the hangouts yesterday with me and Adam Meakin, where I predicted what Rumpus would do when he came into the hangout. Would you mind just playing the bit that's queued up? It's only about 10 seconds.
What? You're saying that Rumpus is predictable?
Do you agree that F equals MA?
Like I said, I'd like to see. Look, I don't think we're the first to discover that issue. So I'd like to seek a little bit of research to see how that's mitigated for, when I would imagine they stick all sorts of G's in there.
Well, yeah, that's
like to
why
see how that's mitigated for in the mathematics.
The mitigation comes from the application of the word weight. You watch, if Rumpus gets in, then the very first thing he'll do is immediately call mass a weight. And the minute he does that, that's where little g gets brought in. So the minute he does that, that's where I go, no, it's to do with density by the definition, Rumpus. You don't know what you're doing.
Do you know the difference between mass and weight, Anthony?
Yeah, little g. That's basically it.
Right. Give me the definition of weight and give me the definition of mass.
The only difference is basically little g and volume. That's it. That's why.
Nothing to do with volume.
When you put your formula on screen,
straight away you got it wrong. It's got nothing to do with volume. So you got that wrong.
No, listen, Rumpus. That's why when you put your maths on screen the other day, and we had the neutral buoyancy definition on screen.
Yeah, I asked you for the definition of weight, Anthony.
You added volume and little g.
I did indeed. Yeah. I asked you just now the definition of weight.
Anthony, how do you define weight? Because it's there, right? People use it. So what is it? It just doesn't exist, or?
It's like when they hijack.
Yeah, but what is it? I don't care what you think that is being done with it. What is it?
Yeah.
What is? Are you asking me for my definition?
Is weight?
Your definition of weight? Yes.
My definition of weight, it goes back to the neutral buoyancy position with the what do you call it? So let me get it back on screen.
So you know
those
right,
columns.
So define weight.
Hold on,
through
Arwin and
buoyancy.
Rumpus.
Go ahead.
You've asked him a question. You're not going to give him a chance to answer. He's had about 5 seconds.
Right, so Nathan, would you mind putting this back on screen?
Sure.
Let's I'll have to pull it back up, so just bear with me 1 sec.
You don't know what weight is, do you?
So, you know before, Rumpus, when you said about being stood on a set of scales, and I asked you a question, an alternative question, yeah?
Yeah.
I said, is it not just measuring the disequilibrium that you have between the medium that you're in?
Yeah.
Well, watch this. So let's say that the cherry tomato is the human on the weights, yeah? So you stand on the scales and you're not accelerating anymore, so you've not got a force.
Net force. Force.
So you say, but anyway, you stand on the scales and you measure something, right? And we know that it's going to measure the same as the medium that he's in because this is neutrally buoyant. But if we replace this medium and give it like the medium of number 3, for example, that is significantly less, the cherry tomato now appears to have a weight. However, if we give the medium number 9, the cherry tomato rises because it's less dense than the medium it's in. So we know that it's to do with the density of the medium that you're in, and we're all in air. So when you say what is weight, you're claiming it's an attractive force to the center of the Earth.
Correct.
I'm saying that the weight of the cherry tomato depends on the medium that it's in.
No, it doesn't.
So you're saying that weight is relative.
Well, when you say weight, you're describing it to be an attractive force between the center of the Earth.
Correct. That's the definition of weight. Yes.
That is the definition of weight. That's why you're insistent that it comes into the equation, right?
Yeah.
However, if the scales were put on the cherry tomato, depending on what number medium it's in, that cherry tomato's got a different weight.
No, it hasn't got a different weight.
It has, because it's relative
apparent weight.
It's in
because
Rumpus.
the buoyancy force, Anthony.
You tell me, Rumpus, what is weight?
Right, here we go. The weight of the cherry tomato does not change because you've surrounded it with a medium. The point is...
No, it does. The mass doesn't change.
Anthony, let me finish.
No, the mass doesn't change.
Hold on.
Anthony, let me finish. Let me finish.
Let him finish.
Anthony, you interrupted my answer, but there's an opposing force called buoyancy.
No. Objection.
Don't you start interrupting me as well.
The mass doesn't change, Rumpus.
No,
but
the mass doesn't change. Anthony, let me finish my answer.
Anthony,
let me finish my answer. There's two forces in action here. One is the weight of the cherry tomato, which doesn't change. Then you add in a buoyancy force, which opposes it. In this case, the buoyancy force equals the weight. So you've got two opposing forces, like a tug of war, and they net to zero because you chose a particular medium.
Prove that there's a force.
You can do that by standing on some scales, because if you change the density of the
moving,
Anthony,
MA.
Just ask me a question if I can prove it, and then you stop me from answering. If you remove, for Jesus Christ, you just asked me to prove there is a weight there. If you were to take that cherry tomato and put it in a vacuum, you would see there's an apparent weight.
Sorry, that's ignoring Anthony's point. So Anthony's point is that it's relevant to the medium, and your example is to immediately suck out the medium completely, removing it from the equation. Even though when Anthony's describing these forces that you claim are there, he's saying they are negated by virtue of the medium that they are in. So the cherry tomato has no weight because it's effectively weightless. It is in neutral buoyancy.
Vacuum required.
Let me just see if that works.
So,
yes, I mean, that would do. Yes, you could just take the cherry tomato out and then weigh that. You'll see that it still has weight independent of the medium. And of course, if you put it in a vacuum, there are no buoyancy
because then it's in air.
at all, and you get its real weight.
No, you're misrepresenting again. So then you've taken it out of the medium that it was neutrally buoyant in and placed it into the medium of air, where it's more dense, and then weighing it.
Well, if you remove the medium, you've got a confusion here, as my diagram shows.
You've done it again.
Two forces in action.
You've just said if you remove the medium.
Eliminate the buoyancy
what we are
effects,
describing is how things behave in mediums, and you're removing it. You can't censor reality, Rumpus.
Agreed, Nathan. Absolutely right there. You can't censor reality, and if you wanted, and you should realise that if you're trying to do a scientific analysis of something, you break down into its component parts, and one of those component parts is the weight, and the other component part is the buoyancy.
The weight is specifically how something behaves when attracted to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth.
It's been verified, yes.
No, it's not been verified, or we wouldn't be having this conversation. We wouldn't be having this debate.
You're just stupid, Nathan. That's your.
No, that's just an ad hominem. So that doesn't come with the devastating destruction of my argument. Your argument being that it's verified. If it was verified, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
You're just stupid and illegitimate.
No, another ad hominem. If it was verified, the debate wouldn't exist. It wouldn't be necessary to discuss it. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
People in the world, Nathan. You're one of them. That's the problem. You don't know what science has found out.
Yeah, you think science is mathematics. We established firmly during the break, check out Nathan Oakley channel if you want to see the firm establishment of Rumpus declaring that maths is science, when it isn't. He's just an...
With your science, Nathan.
What about this like Rumpus or others can talk?
At all. It's a description of what the life of the world that we live in is supposed to represent. But if it don't match, it's wrong.
But it does match exactly. It matches exactly, Anthony.
Listen, all of those values in those equations need to be scientifically validated.
It's a Frankenstein model,
they have
Rumpus.
been validated. They have been validated.
I've got 3 questions for you, Rumpus. Are you familiar with Newton's laws of motion?
Absolutely, yes.
Great. So with regard to the cherry tomato that's sat in that state of equilibrium, it's just like the egg in the water, right? I'm going to read to you what the second law of motion states. It says, the velocity, the law defines a force to be equal to the change in momentum, mass times velocity, per change in time. Yeah, so basically, this basically says that if there's a mass and it's accelerating, you've got a force.
Net force.
Yeah, but you can't show the game of tug of war that's going on, can you?
Yeah,
I can. Because it has, if you take the cherry tomato out of those mediums, you can show it still has weight. Sorted. Your case solved. You've been
That's not showing that there's a game of tug of war going on.
There is, because you can show that the tomato has weight, and you can also show by pressing down on it, Anthony. If I got you to get a football and try to push it underwater, you'll see there's a buoyancy force. So we can do the same for the tomato and demonstrate the buoyancy force. If we push it down, if you push that little cherry tomato down, it'll be pushed up with a force. That's the buoyancy force.
Right, but the only reason why it's got a force is because it's an accelerated mass, correct?
No, it's not accelerated if it's stationary. There's a net force.
That's what
Anthony, there's a tug of war going on. And if the tug of war,
resistance,
the tug of war, if they're like the tug of war, the two teams are pulling the same force. There's no movement, even though there are forces at play.
Where's the
cancel
rope?
one another out.
Hold on. Where's the rope?
Still actually pressure and torque measured on the rope.
Arwin, why are you doing this? Where's the rope?
Oh, what? Because I can never. You know what?
Where's the rope, Rumpus?
I'll just go away because everyone can interrupt, but I can't without you nagging at me.
Where's the rope, Rumpus? Where's the rope?
Really lovely, lovely.
Where's the rope in this tug of war?
Rumpus for an hour, but if I have
thanks,
something
Arwin.
to say,
Thanks a lot.
Shut up, Arwin.
Just play the victim. That's it. Be a martyr.
Well done.
Where's the rope?
Rumpus, you've got to show that there is a net force there, right? You can't just claim it. You've got to show it. But by saying that there's a net force, Rumpus, are you agreeing and therefore conceding that because there's not a moving mass, an accelerating mass, that you haven't got the initial force? Do you agree?
No, because the net force is zero, because there are two opposing forces that cancel one another. How many times do I have to tell you this, Anthony? Two forces of equal opposite magnitude equals zero.
To claim that there's a net force means that you accept that this is true. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to claim it.
Equation is true. Yes.
Right. So in absence of an accelerating mass, we've only got a mass. Therefore, there's no force.
Correct. Net force.
Right, net force. But we all agree that you can't prove that there's a game of tug of war going on apart from.
We can, because if you take the tomato out, it's still got weight. You idiot.
So Rumpus, I want to go to the first law.
Very simple.
An object will remain at rest in a straight line unless compelled to change its state by the action of an external force.
Yeah.
Now, that cherry tomato's at rest. It requires
a net, because it's got a net force of zero acting on it. Yeah.
It requires an external force to make it move. Now you're saying there's already a net force there, right? In addition to the neutral buoyancy that it's in.
There are two forces of equal magnitude in opposite direction, which equals zero, like a tug of war.
But it says that the object will remain at rest unless it's forced to by an external force.
Yes, but if the net force is zero, it won't move.
Or there's no net force.
Yeah, so if there's no net force, it won't move. Like a tug of war, like a rope doesn't move in a tug of war.
No net force means no tug of war. No tug of war, no rope, no cars, no pulling, no force.
There's nothing. There's only density and moment.
Do you understand, Nathan? In tug of war, there are two forces that are equal and opposite magnitude when the rope is stationary.
Yes, I understand. In a tug, excuse me, I hadn't finished. In a tug of war, that might be true. Can you show me the rope that is in the tug of war with the cherry tomato and the relative medium? It's sorry, do I not get to make my point? Sorry,
I didn't send.
He's trying to censor reality again.
No, I was quiet. I didn't send it with someone else.
Yeah, right. Show me the rope, please.
Right. Can you show me the electrostatic force, please?
Sorry, we're not talking about electrostatic forces.
Yes,
we're talking about
there are lots of
your example of a rope.
There are lots of forces that are invisible, you utter moron, and gravitational force is one of them. You utter moron.
So let me get it straight. It's an invisible net force of zero. So it's a force.
Great.
So it's a force we can't see, can't measure. Rumpus, please.
Fantastic.
Excuse me. So it's a force we can't see, can't measure, and has no effect.
Can measure. Get on some scales.
Sorry, it's a net force of zero. Excuse me. Why are you rumpusing me trying to censor reality again?
Get on some scales, Nathan, and you can measure the.
Sorry, you're trying to censor reality. I'm trying to make a point.
Stupid point.
Yeah, you're censoring me. Why are you trying to censor reality, Rumpus? Doesn't this bode well with your religion?
You're the one with a religion. It's obvious you're the one with a religion.
Yeah, you've got a religion, so I'm going to make my point. Right? We have a net force of zero that's invisible, has no effect, and cannot be measured. So there is no force, we can't see it, and it has no effect.
Get on some scales, Nathan, you'll see the
Sorry,
effect.
we're not talking about me, we're talking about a cherry tomato.
Okay, put the cherry...
Shut up! We're talking about a cherry tomato in equilibrium that, according to you, has no net invisible force on it.
when you've got a buoyancy force that's opposite, yes, like you've got in this situation that Anthony's showing.
Right, yes, good. You confirm. There is 0 net invisible force that we can't see or measure. Right, that's what you're claiming. So that you can insert G. So we can't see it, it doesn't have an effect, it's invisible, but you're going to claim it's there.
Yeah, but if you push the tomato down...
No. We're not pushing anything. We are in equilibrium with 0 net force, 0 net invisible force that we can't see, can't measure, and has no effect. But you're still claiming it's there, and when I point it out, you say if we push the cherry tomato down. No, it's in equilibrium with no force. No net
and
force,
it will move to a position
invisible
where
force, no net invisible force.
And you'll see that there is a force acting on it. What is difficult about this?
Because you're saying it's an invisible force that has a net effect of 0, doesn't do anything, doesn't cause any effects, can't be measured, it's invisible, its net result is 0, but we have to believe there is something actually there. That's what you're saying. And we're saying this sounds like the Emperor's new clothes.
Try putting the cherry tomato somewhere else, Nathan. You'll see
No. We're not moving the cherry tomato. It's just happily sat there doing nothing with no net, invisible, non-measurable force acting on it. That's what's happening.
A force will push it there.
Now, you just keep wanting to move the goalposts like last time. Every time we point out that it's not got any forces, and you say there's no net, invisible, 0 force that can't be measured, yeah, we concede, and you say, great! So we accept that there's a tug of war going on, and I say, where's the rope? And you say, oh, well, rumpus.
No, I say it's like electrostatic. Do you accept magnetism exists?
Sorry, no. We're asking you where the force is. In an electrostatic force, you can see an effect. We're saying there is 0 effect. It's invisible. It can't be measured. Net 0. Nothing's happening. Not a tug of war. Normally you see smoke coming out the tractors and ropes getting tight and things on the ground, maybe the wheels spinning. Things like that happen, right? So there are effects that you can see. We're asking, where's the rope? Where's the tractors in this net invisible 0 force that we can't see, can't measure, isn't there, but you say is?
Is there. Can measure it very easily.
See, you just say it's there, right? I point out it's 0. I point out we can't see it. I point out we can't measure it. I point out it has no effect. And you say, but it is there. It sounds like the Emperor's new clothes.
Tug of war, Nathan. Just like a tug of war.
Yeah, and you've said that again. And I point out there's no tractors, there's no tyres spinning, there's no rope, there's nothing like a tug of war going on. Just a happy little cherry tomato sat there doing nothing.
But there's a force acting on it, Nathan. Put it on.
Yeah, you just assert that. So we're saying, you say there's a force. What force, Rumpus? The 0 force. The invisible force. The force you can't measure. The force that doesn't do anything. And we say that's the Emperor's new clothes. A force that's not there that we can't see and can't measure. That's not real. That's just you saying it's really there. So when we say prove it, what's your proof of it? You just don't have any. You don't have any scientific evidence of gravity. We established in Nathan Oakley channel, when people see your fuckwittery, that you don't know the difference between maths and science.
You're an idiot.
That's just an ad hominem attack. My attack comes with the Emperor's new clothes example. You're saying we must accept a force that we cannot measure, cannot see, has 0 difference, makes no effect, and isn't there. It's not doing anything.
Oh, it is doing something. Remove
it is doing something. Not doing anything isn't doing something. Net effect 0 is nothing's happening. It's not moving. We're not pushing the cherry tomato down. It's just a happy little tomato sat there.
And put it on some scales and you'll see the force in action.
Yeah, so we have to move it, don't we? So we have to take it out of equilibrium where it's a happy little tomato doing nothing with no net force. And we have to put it on some scales. Because then we can talk about weight to affirm your religion.
You separate variables, Nathan.
No, we're not separating anything. We're looking at a cherry tomato in equilibrium. We're not separating it. We're looking at it. Going, right, there's no net force. Nothing's happening. You're saying there is. There must be. If we take it out and put it on a scale. If we take it out and put it on a scale in there, then we've got to wait. Then we can work with that, because then we can introduce G. That works with my religion. So let's take it out of equilibrium, not discuss that nothing's happening, and put it on a bloody scale.
Do you think in a tug of war anything's happening?
What tug of war? The cherry tomato got ropes attached to it. Has the cherry tomato got ropes attached?
I'm trying to get a principle out of you, Nathan. Do you accept in a tug of war?
Don't give me a principle when we're looking at a happy little cherry tomato. When I'm looking at a happy little cherry tomato not doing anything, I don't need to know about tractors pulling ropes. It's a false equivalent. Don't need to be told about what's happening in a tug of war. There's no tug of war going on.
There is, Anthony, because I'm sorry, Nathan, because if you put the tomato on some scales, you'll see one of the forces in action.
Yeah, but we're not putting it on the scales. It's in equilibrium.
But you want to isolate. In science, you try and isolate the different effects and isolate them so you can measure them separately. We
try and isolate variables. So if you're going to claim this is science, then you need to first start to formulate a hypothesis and then show me that there's been systematic experimentation done in terms of taking happy little tomatoes and putting them on scales, you idiot.
Nathan, let me ask this
Welcome, Pimmers.
AP.
Rumpus, last question, and then I'm done. Newton's third law states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction.
Yep.
Now, you claim that by standing on a set of scales, that's a force.
Yep.
What's the equal and opposite reaction?
Right. When you stand on some scales, you compress the spring, and the spring pushes back with exactly the same force. Once it gets to equilibrium, the spring is pushing back with the same force that you're pushing down, and therefore the net force is zero, therefore there's no movement.
Is there any other explanation that could be possible? No?
When you get to equilibrium,
yes,
sorry, we've
no.
taken...
No,
hold on, I'm a bit confused.
Right.
The cherry tomato was in equilibrium. We've taken it out and put it on the scale. You're not letting me finish. So you're saying, let's take it out of equilibrium and put it on a scale, and then you're saying when it compresses a spring, it reaches equilibrium. It was already in equilibrium. So why do we need to reach equilibrium on your man-made device when it was already in equilibrium, when it was in its similar density liquid?
Well, I wanted to demonstrate to you that it still has weight and the scale.
Yes, you need it to be weight. That's it. That's our point. So we're taking it out of equilibrium, putting it on a scale so you can say it has weight, even though what you're actually demonstrating is an increased mass in a different density with a man-made device that wouldn't work in the density it was in when it was in a happy little equilibrium.
Yeah, the buoyancy force, which is...
Yeah, buoyancy and density, not weight. Right, Rumpus. Yeah, okay. Yeah, why don't you sod off? I think we've had enough of you for the one show, 2 shows now.
So the tomato will move to the point where the two... Let me ask... Oh, let me just finish my last sentence. The tomato will move to the point where the two forces of buoyancy and weight cancel out. And so it will...
No, the tomato's not moving. Don't assert the tomato will move. Unless you bloody move it, it's not going anywhere. It's a happy little tomato in equilibrium.
Let's start it off at position 1, shall we?
No, it's not starting off at position 1. It's in equilibrium now. That's what we're talking about. But you must attribute a travelling speed to it, right? It's got to have a velocity. It's got to be moving. You need that to happen for you to attribute weight. You need it desperately. You need that tomato not to be a happy tomato in equilibrium. You need it moving, don't you?
Will predict how it will behave when you put it in another medium. So I'll be able to say to Anthony, go away.
I'm not putting it in another medium. Why do you want to put it in a different medium? It's a happy little tomato. It's got 0 force, 0 invisible force that we can't measure and can't see, and nothing's happening to it because of it. And you want to move it. Why? That tomato's happy, man. It's a happy tomato.
As a major achievement.
Doesn't need moving.
I will be able to tell you the force that will be exerted on the tomato by putting it in a different medium.
We don't need to move the tomato. You need to move the tomato. It's a happy tomato. It's not going anywhere. It's a happy little tomato. Let's show the audience just how happy that tomato is. Look, it's in equilibrium. It's not moving. It's a happy tomato.
Would you be impressed, Anthony, that I could give you the numbers, the
forces? I need to get this out there. Hold on. I got a title for the show. The Rumpus Cannot Cherry Tomato.
Yeah, it doesn't want that tomato to be... It has to move it. It can't. It's got OCD about this tomato. It can't just stay where it is. It's got to move
Anthony, don't you think that's impressive? I'll be able to tell you the force that tomato would exert by
if you move it.
Medium.
I asked you what was the equal and opposing force for your thing, and you said about the springs underneath. And I asked you, was there an alternative explanation or not? And you said no. Well, I'm going to say to you that that's not true, because if you've got the human being being the cherry tomato and the medium that
but you've got a medium now. You've introduced a medium,
Anthony. Yeah, it's going to rumpus it, Anthony.
You've introduced a medium that didn't exist in the example you started off with.
Is this the crescendo of your point, Anthony? Because if it is, I'll just kick him out. He doesn't want you to make your devastating end point.
Well, he's just talking about buoyancy. He's saying on scales, there's no buoyancy effect.
Just listen. If the medium,
you didn't say scales underwater, did you, Anthony?
You
said
Anthony,
scales presumably in your
Anthony, can you
bathroom
hear
or something.
me? Can you hear me, Anthony? I'm just going to have to kick him out, or he won't let you make your point, and I want it to be reasonably concise.
When did you mention water?
Just let him listen. Just let him listen.
He won't.
Rumpus, if I stand on a set of scales at the bottom of a swimming pool...
Yeah, but you would do it. Yeah, it wasn't the example situation you gave.
Count one, Anthony. I'm going to give him 3 counts, and then he's out.
At the bottom of the water, as I said, if you were at the bottom of a pool, like you've got...
He hasn't finished, Rumpus.
You would have...
He hasn't finished. He didn't finish.
He did finish.
No,
so
he didn't.
You said that there was an equal and opposing force, and you said it was the springs inside the scales.
Yeah.
And I said, was there an alternative? And you said no.
Well, not in the situation you described.
Twice. The medium that the scales are in.
Yeah, but you didn't mention the medium, did you?
Shut up, Rumpus. Let him make his devastating point. You can't censor reality, Rumpus.
So my question is that the only explanation? And you said yes. So
in the case you described, yes. You didn't mention a medium, did you?
Right, I've got to kick him out, Anthony. I'm sorry. He just can't help himself.
If we change the medium, Rumpus, that the scales are in...
Yes, then get buoyancy force. I've been talking about this. I've got an equation for it, Anthony, for God's sake.
Right, I've got to kick him.
If we change the medium that the scales are in and then weigh the human, what's going to then happen?
Hello?
Hey, Jimbo. I've kicked Rumpus. He just wouldn't let you make your point. Can everyone just let Anthony make his actual point?
My point is that there is an alternative explanation, and then the explanation or the alternative explanation is that if you change the medium that you put your scales in, you will change the so-called weight. So you're not actually measuring weight. What you're actually measuring is how much of a disequilibrium that you are in, because we're all heavier than air. And what you're measuring is how much mass that you are disequilibrium to the air that you're in. And you know that by if you measure yourself in water, you're a fraction of the weight. And that's really what's going on. You're measuring by what they call weight and little g. You're just measuring how much of a discrepancy there is between the medium that you're in and the mass that you weigh. That's it. It's dead simple.
I'm not surprised he's been trying to obfuscate that for the last hour.
Well, may I add that all he's trying to do is attribute something to density that it's not. Density is a ratio. It's not a force. A ratio is the percentage of one thing to the other, a ratio.
He has to obfuscate the point because he needs it to be weight. He needs it to be little g so that he can support this downwards acceleration thing called gravity. Yeah. But there is an alternative explanation, and it's a lot simpler. Doesn't require any maths whatsoever. It just requires a scale.
But
and it can be elephants.
On the subject of density, it is a ratio. It's the mass to volume ratio in every instance.
But the point is, it doesn't even need a scale. You can call it elephants, you can call it kilograms, you can call it clouds. Doesn't matter what you call it, but everybody understands that there's a scale involved, and depending on where you fit in that scale, you can tell where you're going to be. And
one thing you cannot call it the force is my point. He's trying to make it a force. It's a ratio. No ratio can be a force. How many apples to oranges do you have? It's a ratio. It's not a force. Understand?
I agree.
Simple.
Completely.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Can't make it something it's not. And that's what Rumpus wants to do. Wants to make the ratio the actual force of tug of war and pulling by just all the nonsense of not even recognizing that it's just a ratio of mass to volume. End it there. He's an idiot.
It's not that difficult. It just makes it sound really difficult when you start talking about all these extra forces that don't satisfy Newton's laws on the laws of movement. If you haven't got an accelerating mass, you've not got a force. There's an equal and opposite force, and that never gets talked about. What was the other one? Something that is at rest will remain at rest unless a force is added.
How you doing?
Well, the cherry tomatoes at rest.
Hey, Thomas. Can you hear us?
What's happening, people?
Good to have you.
Have you not been watching, Thomas?
I kind of been watching, not in the past 3 minutes.
We're just trying to work out whether or not there's a game of tug of war going on with the cherry tomato. I call bullshit.
There's no tug of war going on with the cherry tomato. There's no gravity rope involved.
No, I agree. I think you've got to be a moron to think that there's a game of tug of war going on when there's no force. Everybody can see there isn't one.
Well, it's just by trying to make densities redefined. It is not a force, and it can never be. It's not responsible for tug of war, tractor, ropes, nothing.
But
just big shout out to Alicia Champagne, is it? More explanations needed for no distance to the sun. Thank you very much for the super chat, Alicia.
This is Thomas. Do you mind if I say something?
Go ahead.
Go.
So gravity, it's an interesting subject, but it seems to me it would be easy to prove gravity if you had a mathematical equation that contained a term for gravity. And then if the equation worked with the term, the gravitational constant, but then if you tried to use the equation without the gravitational constant, the answer was not correct, that would lead you in the direction that maybe there is gravity, maybe there is something to the gravitational constant because it's required in the mathematical equation for it to predict the behavior of a falling object.
I'd agree. How are you going to...
Okay, so if we take the gravitational constant out of the equation, how do we predict the behavior of a falling object with only density?
Mathematically, that's the only way you can do it.
Right. So your mathematical equation, let's do this. You use density only in your math. I'll use density and I'll use the gravitational constant, which is a string of characters that defines how gravity is used in math.
It's fine. And how is this going to contrast against what you're describing as the gravitational constant? How are you going to show what is the constant compared to what's not when you're doing it real world?
Well, we're just going to assume the constant is correct because they created it, just for the sake of this exercise. The gravitational constant equals gravity, and this is how we can prove it. We can take a 9-pound bowling ball, we can drop it 1,000 feet. We can time it with a stopwatch. We have math that can predict how long it will take for that object to reach terminal velocity, and then we have another math equation that will predict how long it will take to fall the rest of the way. So that's sort of a compound equation and requires the gravitational constant as the force pulling the object down at 9.8 meters squared, or whatever it is.
So what?
All I'm saying is that if you take that gravitational constant out of the equation, it can no longer predict the behavior of that falling object. And so in essence, if this is true, if the gravitational constant can predict the behavior of a falling object, then it proves both the math and that gravity exists.
No, it doesn't. All it proves is that a formula...
Why it doesn't. Explain why it doesn't.
Because I don't think umbrellas would work in a bowling ball rainstorm.
The answer is because all it does is proves that the equation itself works, and you're not able to contrast what it would be like if the equation didn't work real world. Yeah, mathematically you can show it, but how are you going to show it real world by removing little g? Because the strength of it's basically minuscule, but it's the reason why all the oceans of the world are held onto the ball. But how are you going to demonstrate it real world by manipulating that little g? You can't. It's a very weak force. If you removed it, you wouldn't notice the effect of it because it's so small, yet it's the biggest fight that we have.
Well, did you see where someone had to fly up in the air and throw the stupid bowling ball off a plane in the first place? The bowling ball gravity didn't get it up there.
We have a tower. You can climb a tower.
Well,
and drop a bowling ball 10 feet.
Climbing
you can drop a bowling ball 10 feet off a ladder.
But that's the same as pulling the pendulum back for the...
Someone is doing that. It's an action.
Hold on. One at a time.
All I'm saying is when you use math to analog the real world, you need terms that describe the things that you're trying to analog. Like
you also need evidence of the size of between the two. You need evidence.
Hold on a second. Is it Thomas? Thomas.
It is Thomas.
So
that's my name.
Well, I think Jimbo's point is that does your equation also take into account the fact that you've had to take the bowling ball up the tower, or does your equation start when you drop it?
Just for logical purposes, this is to prove the gravitational constant exists.
Sorry, I'll ask you a question. Sorry, Thomas, I understand. Hold on, Jimbo. Hold on, Warren. You either not understood my question, or you just felt it necessary to repeat your assertion.
No, yeah, you're saying, are you including the energy required to carry the ball up to the height before it's dropped? I claim that's irrelevant to the point.
So the answer to the question then, hold on, Thomas.
What all you're doing is carrying something up a hill and then releasing it.
Thomas, you're behaving like a real globehead. Can we have a civil Discord where one of us talks, then we get a response?
Yeah, that's fine. You guys are all talking over each other, and we don't need ad hominem in the discussion either.
I agree. So, what your answer to my question would be then is no. You entirely ignore the process involved to get it to the stage where you can drop it. That's deemed irrelevant by you, correct?
Okay, so let's write a math equation that contains the terms used, energy required to lift said object, and so forth. So all we're doing is negating the gravitational force.
Really?
Taking the object up to a position where it has an energy potential and then dropping it. So it's basically the opposite
so the two
of the operation
so
of the gravitational force pulling the object down. You're just carrying the object up.
Wow.
And you're doing it in a different fashion at a different speed, using a different energy source, a different method.
So the two would cancel each other out.
There's a lot of ambiguous definition in what you're talking about. All I'm talking about is dropping an object, timing it, and then using math to predict that same.
Yes, you've said that, Thomas. I heard. So, Thomas, thank you for repeating it 3 times. We heard. So you are going to ignore the fact that if you were to factor in the fact that you put energy in to get it up and then expelled energy getting it back down again, the two would cancel each other out. But if you ignore it, or as you phrased it, deem it irrelevant, then you can calculate that G by just ignoring that bit. Correct?
What does carrying the object
Don't ask
up
me a
to the height
question. Just confirm or deny what I've said as correct or incorrect. Am I correct?
I don't understand.
Do I need to repeat my assertion?
I don't understand what you're trying to say.
Thomas, you're talking when I'm talking again, Thomas. You're very rude. You're like a lot of robots we deal with. Thomas, you seem to be grimacing. Thomas, this was Jimbo's point. So, are you confirming me as correct when I assert that you simultaneously ignore the balancing of the equation if you included the energy expelled to get it up to the top in the first place? You do, in fact, deem that irrelevant and then start making your maths from when you've got it up there, correct?
Well, you can create math. The
gravitational. You're not Thomas.
That's correct, Nathan.
Excellent.
It's logical. Okay, if we take a logical flat plane, it goes on forever and it's 2-dimensional. It's not real. Okay, hang on. It's not a real place.
Sorry, why are we talking about a flat plane now? Sorry, we were talking about bowling balls. Thomas,
it's a logical bowling ball.
Thomas,
9 pounds. Hang on a second. You guys aren't letting me speak.
Let's just shut you up. We were talking about bowling balls. Now you want to talk about something else. So.
No, I'm talking about exactly the same description of the exercise that I gave you before. It's a logical exercise. This isn't a real place where a little gremlin carries a bowling ball up a spiral staircase. That's not how this works.
Scientific one.
How the bowling ball gets to its starting point is irrelevant.
No, it isn't. So, as you've just admitted, the two amounts of energy expelled going up and then dropping the ball would cancel each other out. So it's only if you ignore this and deem it irrelevant that you can extrapolate your gravity from it.
No, that's not true, Nathan. There's something
called unnecessary, Nathan.
Sorry, so we can ignore the energy that bowling balls take to get up to the top of buildings. What color is the bowling ball,
Nathan? What color? Does it have holes in it? Does it need finger holes? This is all irrelevant semantics. Who carried it up the hill?
No, it's not irrelevant semantics. Bowling balls don't magically get to the top of buildings. Somebody has to expel energy getting them up there.
In science, they do. In science, we build a tower.
Sorry, what do you mean in science?
In science, we build a tower.
Sorry,
and we put the bowling ball on the tower.
Stop talking. What do you mean in science?
In science, it's a scientific experiment. It's an exercise. We take human beings and resources. We take a physical object and we take apparatus and we perform things. We do stuff.
Stop. So what is the hypothesis?
The hypothesis is if you're doing math to predict the behavior of real world.
Are you an idiot? Do you understand what a hypothesis is?
If we're doing math to predict the behavior of real world.
Warren.
Why do we need a term for gravity in that math?
Thomas, do you understand what a scientific hypothesis is?
Yes. Gravity is a scientific hypothesis.
Gravity is a scientific hypothesis. No, that makes you a retard.
So ad hominem just won the debate.
No, gravity is.
I just
listen to my words, Thomas. Listen to the words coming out of my mouth.
Nathan win,
that
everyone?
means stop talking and listen.
Today?
Stop talking and listen. I have detailed that you are retarded based on your statement. Shut up. This demonstrates further that you have a mental incapacity issue because you can't stop talking. Rather than talk,
no, you won't let me
listen. So listen to the words coming out.
You ask me a question and then you start calling me a retard.
Yes, and I'm explaining why, but you can't listen. Probably because you have a mental incapacity. A further example would be that you can't stop talking when others talk. So I will explain if you can bear to listen long enough. I detailed your retarded statement. That would be that gravity is a hypothesis. I'm asking you to define what a scientific hypothesis is, and your answer was gravity is a hypothesis. That makes you a prize A fuckwit. Okay, sir?
Whatever you say, Nathan.
Yes, it's not an ad hominem. It came with a devastating point attached. So I'm explaining to my audience why you're a retard. You are a retard because when asked what a scientific hypothesis was, and now you're talking when you can't listen. Another demonstration of somebody who is mentally retarded. So, retard, I'll explain it again. When asked what a scientific hypothesis is, your answer was gravity is a hypothesis, making you a retard. Okay.
Continuing on.
No! We're going to establish that this was not, as asserted by the retard on the panel, you, an ad hominem attack. It was a demonstration of your retardation, not an ad hominem. You were wrong.
Why are you not allowing me to speak, Nathan?
Yeah, you were wrong.
Why are you not allowing me to
I'm
speak?
waiting for you to concede your
You're shouting me down like Dell does.
Of an ad hominem.
Down. You don't have
you're
any
talking
debate.
Continually because you're retarded. And I'm getting the audience to the point where they understand that I'm not ad hominem you. It's not an attack based on your character. It's an attack based on your statement that gravity is a hypothesis when asked what a scientific hypothesis is. That demonstrates that you are retarded. You have a retardation in your cognition. It's not an ad hominem as asserted by you. Okay? Take your time.
Okay, I'm going to continue where I was.
No, you're going to concede that you were wrong. Not an ad hominem, a demonstration of your stupidity. Not an ad hominem. You, like many times, were wrong.
Admit you were wrong, and then carry on. It's quite simple. Be a man. Admit you were wrong.
Yeah, that's it, Warren. Point out to the fuckwit that he's not a man.
Teach your child, man.
Yeah,
go slap your kid.
That is
just kick him out.
That's an ad hominem. No devastating argument, just an ad hominem.
Oh, we're talking about gravity.
Ah, so you can't be a man. You can't concede that you're wrong. You have to literally do the very thing you accused me of.
You cannot have a discussion with somebody without attacking them and calling them names.
No, I didn't call you a name. I gave the audience a concise demonstration of your retardation. That's not a name.
The gravitational constant destroys you.
We're still waiting for the pussy on the panel, the coward on the panel, to be a man and admit he's wrong. He can't because he's a coward.
Gravity.
I'm not wrong, Nathan.
So it was an ad hominem attack. My example of your retardation was an ad hominem.
There's nothing here. You haven't offered any information. No.
I'll offer the information again. When asked what a scientific hypothesis is, this retard said Gravity is a hypothesis, thus demonstrating that he is a retard, not an ad hominem. How many times are we going to do this before you concede it and be a man?
How about
you gonna
this?
Be a man, Thomas? You going to be a man?
The gravitational constant.
Not talking about gravity.
Is a hypothesis.
Talking about ad hominems.
It's not perfectly accurate.
You've made an assertion, Thomas. You're going to grow a pair of balls.
It's offered.
It's not perfectly accurate that you use the word science in the same sentence. The scientific method would make
perfectly
accurate.
Take a ruler
with reality.
and measure
what are you
something.
Talking about?
How accurate is that measurement? Take a ruler and measure something. How accurate?
Not science.
It's as accurate as the ruler. It's as accurate as the scale you're using.
Where is your scientific evidence for gravity? Don't start pointing to dropping things off of buildings again.
My scientific evidence for gravity is the gravitational constant is required.
I'm asking you for the scientific experiment.
You just spoke over me. Sorry. You just spoke over me. You asked me a question and you didn't let me answer it.
Go on. Dig your hole.
Math. Using a term.
God. Oh, God. So when asked, this guy is as stupid as the rumpus. When asked for scientific evidence, the answer that comes out of his mouth is the math that's been done. I mean, we're literally dealing with stupid people. You know, even when you point out that they're stupid, with examples, they claim you're
You were wrong.
Listen to you guys. You're not letting me speak.
You said math.
You said
heard
math.
your
You won't let a person speak.
We heard your answer.
You said math.
Math.
You were wrong.
Incorrect, retard.
Okay, I'm going to store your answers. You both say I'm wrong.
Yes. When asked for scientific evidence of gravity, your answer was mathematics. Do you think science and mathematics are the same thing?
And then talk over me and say I'm wrong.
Yeah, maths isn't science. Maths is not science.
It's closely
You have not allowed me to speak.
We have.
We heard you say
and you were wrong.
You were wrong. Yes, correct.
Mathematics is such a useful.
I didn't finish my answer.
Can make
I didn't finish my answer.
Well, you said that it was math. End of story. You were wrong.
You want to frustrate me. You want to attack me and insult me. And
now he's playing the victim card. Let's just highlight again while he talks shit non-stop. So, we asked you for scientific evidence. Your answer was maths.
You're not. You're being completely unfair. Every time you ask me a question or offer me a...
No, just playing victim card again. Let's do it again. We asked you for scientific evidence. Your answer was literally the word maths.
And I didn't call you a name.
No, it wasn't. I didn't even get to say my answer, and you started talking over me.
Yeah, you've already told us it's the G constant. That's mathematics.
You don't understand.
Oh, so now I don't understand. So I am correct. We do understand. You have answered. You're just wrong and too stupid to realise.
You're not letting me speak. You're sitting here yelling at me. You're so triggered and so fucking angry, you can't even listen to yourself.
Don't swear.
The biggest smile on my face because I love the hole you're digging.
Yeah,
there's too. 4 major branches of science, dude? And one of them is mathematics.
You said math. It's the biggest hole. When asked for science, you said math.
No, there are 4 major branches of science and mathematics and logic.
Okay, what's your definition of the scientific method? Point to where it says math.
Repeatable, observable
math is one of the major branches of science.
That's the definition of science.
Hold on, P.
Okay, so where was math in that then?
Repeatable, observable. We use math to analog the real world. We measure the real world.
Extrapolate. No, listen, you can extrapolate. You can extrapolate math out of science if you want to, but it's not the scientific method. I've asked you for your scientific evidence of gravity, pointing to some kind of experiment of some kind.
My scientific evidence of gravity is math. You don't let me speak. An airplane flies because math designed it to defeat gravity. There's your math. There's your math.
Math is a major
absolutely
stupid.
No
Sorry.
Is
math reality? Lauren, let me just ask him a quick question.
Ohm's law.
Thomas.
Why is
mathematics a major
You're being very disruptive, Thomas. We're just trying to ask you a simple question.
Ohm's law.
Thomas.
Ohm's law.
Trying to ask you a simple question.
Ohm's law is used to design electrical circuits. Your phone wouldn't work without it.
Electrical circuits. You're pointing at planes in the sky. I'm talking about gravity. I want your scientific experiment for gravity. You said mass.
Ohm's law.
Mass is not an experiment.
All electricity operates on Ohm's law.
Talking constantly.
Ohm's law is to design electricity. It does not design itself. The use of any electrical device.
It's too stupid.
No, you're not listening. Math is required for the real world to function. Without math, airplanes can't fly.
That's total and utter nonsense. The sun will still come up tomorrow without mathematics. The stars will still come out tomorrow without mathematics. Plants will still grow without mathematics. The world will still continue to be exactly as it is without us having any formulas applied. Maths doesn't cause things. We're asking you repeatedly for your scientific evidence of something, and you repeatedly telling us maths.
I'm giving you scientific evidence that math exists and is real. Ohm's law.
Ohm's law. It's just stupid.
Math is closely related to science. I don't see the difference.
Scientific evidence of gravity, please.
Mathematics and logic is a major branch of science.
Sorry. Science establishes cause and effect relationships through systematic experimentation. Science is hypothesis driven. Hypothesis is scientific predictions of your presumed cause on the observed phenomena. That's science. It has absolutely nothing to do with mathematics and everything to do with observing phenomena in the natural world. That's science. Maths, no. That's not science.
Nathan, you think
yes,
maths can show the cause and effect relationship in science?
He's an idiot.
Do you have any evidence that math is not science?
Okay, let's talk about how math discovered
something. Exactly science.
Sorry, been asked if we can show that math is not science. Yeah, they're two different things. Go and look up the word maths, then go and look up the word science, and what you will find is very different descriptions for the two things.
But math is a major branch of science.
Math is not a branch of science. Let's say it again. Science establishes cause and effect. It establishes it in the natural world. What you are observing is going to become your dependent variable, and you are going to try and cause the effect of that dependent variable by varying and manipulating your independent variable, the presumed cause of the effect. The way you establish that presumed cause to be the cause is through systematic experimentation. That process is called the scientific method. It is not maths.
Ohm's law.
You're a retard. You're just throwing out nonsense. You're not addressing the fact that you've said maths 3 times, because you're quite literally retarded. You're not addressing the fact that when asked what scientific hypothesis is, you said gravity. You're stupid. You know, you're stupid, and there's nothing else for me to say about you, Thomas. You're a thicko.
Ohm's law.
Yeah, you're just throwing out shit again. So you're not addressing the fact that what I have detailed about observation of natural phenomena in the natural world, about independent and dependent variables, about science being hypothesis-driven, you're not addressing any of this. Because you, an idiot, thinks that maths is science. That just makes you stupid. To me, and everybody watching, you can throw out your crap continually. It doesn't change the fact that you are stupid.
I'm stupid. Is that what you think?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So,
yeah, you describe gravity as a hypothesis.
Can you make a computer, can you make an electrical device function without Ohm's law, without math?
Sorry, we're not talking about computers. Computers would fall into the category of, guess what? Not maths, not science, but technology. So we're definitely not talking about science when we're talking about computers. That's not science. Again,
we're talking about a description of a force in nature. And science has defined that force, and you're denying it.
Has science defined that force? Has it used a scientific method to define that force? Can you point to the scientific experiment that's proven gravity, please? Go back to my original question.
And math.
Thank you for doing that. Where is your scientific experiment for gravity? Where is it?
Isaac Newton, bro. What the fuck? He's
Isaac Newton, bro. What the fuck?
So again, he's asked for a scientific experiment, and what he gave as his answer was the name of a man. Not a scientific experiment, not a formulated hypothesis, not systematic experimentation, but the name of a man.
Isaac Newton's a scientific experiment, bro.
Isaac Newton is an institution. You don't recognize it. You want to laugh at history. You're laughing at history.
Thomas,
you're like a peanut gallery.
I'm laughing at the fact that you've basically called Sir Isaac Newton a scientific experiment. I have asked you very clearly, and I'll say it again. I'm going to back Nathan up. You're quite retarded in this.
What you guys are doing?
Please, can you give me your scientific experiment that proves gravity?
Let's go back to that. Let's go back. You mentioned
scientific
the bowling ball.
experiment that proves gravity. Let's see.
You mentioned
drop a bowling ball from 9 feet.
No.
Measure it, and then use math.
So literally, we've pulled this apart. Right, this isn't a scientific experiment. It doesn't have a hypothesis. He's not going to offer a systematic experimentation and some technology that might have been derived from this science. No. What he's going to do is come up with a bullshit ad hoc nonsense and tell us that that's science.
Can we go back to this bowling ball thing? So the problem with the bowling ball was that it had to be carried upwards, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, that was the problem. The problem was the bowling ball required force.
Let Zinda talk. Let Zinda talk.
So let's say, let's take instead a rock that falls down a canyon. People would argue that the rock was always there, and people would argue that the rock was going up to I don't know, plate tectonic and stuff like this. But I think most of the people on the panel say that the rock was always up there. Now it falls down the canyon. No one carried it. No one carried it on top of the canyon. Can we take this as example instead of the bowling ball? No one has carried
that. I will accept that.
Yeah. So this problem with carrying the bowling ball up is annihilated.
Okay. May I say something, please?
Just before you do, P. Yes, you'll go next. So, are you saying that your observed phenomena is a rock falling down a cliff face?
Instead of the bowling ball, I wanted to say yes, but I don't know what he wants to say. What his point was, so I want him to explain it with the rock cloud falling down the cliff.
Is it my turn?
Okay,
go ahead, P.
Well, I
think he was asking me.
Well, yeah. Do you want to answer?
Same as a skydiver. Same as any object that falls. It's going to fall off the cliff. It's going to go into a free fall.
Every single question is directed at you, Thomas. That was directed at P.
The system
specifically
of gravity.
Asked if he
Why
could
is it
talk.
fallen off of the cliff? Has there been a force applied?
This guy must have an IQ of about 60.
Wind resistance.
Literally,
there's a few elements that
P.
come into play.
said, "Can I speak next?"
Let go.
I said, "Yes, you can speak next."
You've been cracked.
I say, "Go ahead, P. Mars," and then Thomas talks. Do you have a mental problem?
I thought he was addressing my point.
Right, I'll say it again for this complete idiot. I'll say it again while I shut him up, because I've now got to mute him just to be able to be heard by the audience. So, P. Mars says, "Can I speak next?" I say, "Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, P, but you can go next." I finish and then say, "Go ahead, P. Mars," and then Thomas starts talking. He is mental, stupid, an idiot. Go ahead, P. Mars.
Okay, I'm sure you guys will disagree, but in my opinion, there's no issue with carrying the bowling ball up because that is called gravitational energy, or it's part of potential energy, and there's a math equation that involves a constant of gravity to explain that as well. So it's not like
absolutely that's different. Potential energy is
there's an equation with a G in it, so you got to prove that G. So we're back to the experiment, the scientific experiment of proving G. That's basically it.
G is in action always. G is everywhere. An object at rest.
Oh, God. We're just going to have this guy assert his bloody religious belief. He's not going to give us a scientific experiment for it. He's just going to assert his religious belief about it.
There's a G in there. You need to prove that G. If there's any maths involved, you have to validate any values that you put in your equations. So it needs to have science behind it. So you need to prove that, G. Where's the scientific evidence for G? You haven't pointed to one yet. You pointed to a man.
Thomas, can I ask you a question?
Scientific evidence for G, in my opinion, is if you remove it from the math equation.
No, we didn't ask for the opinion of a retard. If we wanted the opinion of a retard, we'd have said, "Oi, retard, what are your feelings and thoughts about gravity?" That's not what he asked for, retard. He said, "Give us your scientific evidence." Not your feelings,
it's a math equation.
not your
You put the math
opinion.
in,
A scientific experiment, retard. Not your feelings, thoughts, and opinions on the matter. Nobody gives two flying Fs about your opinion about gravity. Okay?
So numbers on a piece of paper are my opinion.
You need the science before the maths.
Thomas, let me ask you a
question. Opinion.
Thomas.
Math is my opinion.
Thomas.
No,
whether it's right or wrong.
You get the truth from
Okay,
the
now let's just point it out for the audience again. So I point out that he's being asked for scientific evidence and what he's given his opinion, and then he asks permission to just give his opinion.
Thomas, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What motivated you to join the panel today?
I have the day off, and I woke up and I noticed that you guys were running the live stream in my time domain when I'm awake. And I've been following the flat earth thing for a long time, just kind of watching you guys. And I kind of just wanted to talk about math a little bit. And I didn't want to get into a big shouting match and a bunch of ad hominem with people. I'm a human being. And to be honest with you guys, we could actually be friends in the real world.
Oh,
there's so much.
Who gives a crap about your appeal to feelings? If you want to go and talk about maths, sod off to a bloody maths forum. We are talking about the natural world. The natural world is dealt with by science. If you want to talk about maths, go to a bloody maths forum.
About that, Thomas, would you like to explain this to me after the show? Without everyone shouting around, I'm kind of interested what you want to say. So, after the show, do you mind sticking...
Let's shut Zinder up. He does this every time a dick comes on the panel that's a complete retard that just toes the party line when it comes to globeheadness. Oh, can I talk to you afterwards? You're obviously really credible. No, Zinder, let's not plug up my airwaves with your social networking. The guy is a total and utter retard. When asked for scientific evidence, he told us gravity was a hypothesis. The guy's an idiot.
You're holding court.
I wasn't talking to you, Nathan.
You're holding court.
Nathan, look, it doesn't. Yeah, you don't have to care with who I talk about. Not.
I'm running a show, Zinder.
Let me speak. If I want to get an explanation from him, I need to get an explanation that he can talk without getting interrupted.
Do you think the 254 people care about your social networking with the retard? Do you think that's what they want to watch?
Yeah, he seems a little bit more intelligent than you, Nathan.
Oh, really? That sounds like an ad hominem attack based on nothing. You're not taking apart my argument now, am I? You're not taking apart anything I've said. You're just saying that this retard, who hasn't got the vaguest idea the difference between maths and science, is more intelligent than me. What's that based on?
Did you guys know that you can smell arrogance? Did you know that?
Yeah.
Really?
What does arrogance mean? Hold on. What does arrogance mean?
I've just made a scientific observation.
What does arrogance mean?
What was your observed phenomenon in your scientific observation?
I want to round out the show on this point. I want this retard to tell me what arrogant means.
Being really mean and angry rather than being able to just be calm and comfortable and speak with people. It's like a lack of confidence or something. You're insecure. It's your insecurity.
Very secure.
Arrogant.
Answer to your question.
Maybe you'd like to look up the origins. Nathan. Hold on, Warren, your mic's slipping. Maybe you'd like to look up the origins of the word.
Frustrated and hostile towards others.
Oh, that's what it means, does it?
Well, yeah, that's what it means. It's very fundamental.
Thomas, one more question.
Sure.
Could you give me any example ever in the whole history of mathematics where maths has ever caused to do something?
Explain again, just maybe articulate it a little better.
Can you give me any example ever where maths has ever caused anything to happen?
Yeah, I have a power supply that gives 12 volts electricity. Yeah. And use Ohm's law to make a transformer that turns AC into DC.
Yeah.
And then the DC voltage, it uses a voltage divider that bleeds some of it to ground, but then allows some of that voltage to be available for me to use to make a light up.
Right.
And Ohm's law is used as an equation that tells us how much resistance to apply for the voltage divider to provide the 12 volts from a 90 volt transformer.
Sure, but there was a key word,
and that's how we do work. It's electricity.
Thomas, there was a key word in my question, and it was the word caused. I didn't say explain. I didn't say describe. I said caused. So I'll ask it again. Is there any examples where maths has ever caused something to do anything?
Yeah, math causes electricity to do work.
No,
really?
It does.
Dude, it doesn't.
Retard.
Math is the cause, because without math, you can't do the work.
Retard.
You can't make an electric motor do the work because you have to know how much copper to put on the armature and how many winds, and you have to know the polarity of the electrical field and how to create that with an electromagnet. And without math, you can't figure that out. Nikola Tesla proved this. Nikola Tesla was the groundbreaker.
He asked you, retard.
That invented all of the technology based on Ohm's law.
He didn't understand the words used, Anthony. Just too stupid to listen. He used the word cause, idiot.
Well, terms defined in the dictionary are just words. They're not perfect analogs for reality.
Words have meaning. That's what we're dealing with. People who claim semantics are stupid and don't understand that words do have true meanings and significance. Like the word arrogant. Yeah? Its origins are from the word arrogante or arrogar. To claim for oneself. That's the origins of the word arrogant. Did you know that?
Yes, it basically means that you have no backup and you're making an independent...
No, it means... I just said it and you didn't listen. My God, this guy is so stupid. To claim for oneself.
All alone.
Listen, repeat it back. What did I say it means?
In a tiny little place.
Repeat it back. Just you. I've tried to educate you. What did I say? Repeat it back to me.
I'm not going to repeat what you said.
Try. Try.
I don't want to learn anything.
Try and repeat back what I said to demonstrate that you actually listened.
I didn't even hear what you said.
Yeah, of course you didn't. It's because you're a fucktard. To claim for oneself. That is the origin of the word arrogant. That's where it comes from. Yeah? You think it means something completely different because you don't understand the etymology of the word. That's because you're stupid.
Really? So now we're talking about words and their meanings from the dictionary?
Yeah! You absolute fuckwit! We're talking about words and their meanings.
This is ad hominem. For you to attack me...
you started talking about words.
And my definition of words is more ad hoc.
Science terms are very defined.
With that, I will say, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. And, of course, a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you hated the show, you know exactly what to do. But if you liked it, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you've not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!